We're going through a really hilly area, and we're coming up on two little towns called Beaumont and Banning. Now y'all, I got a job managing two properties owned by the same company. One was in Beaumont and one was in Banning. They were very close together. Now, my husband and I, my sixth husband, and I lived in Temecula. And I used to commute over here every day, y'all. These two properties were HUD properties. After I got hired, I went and toured these properties. Now, y'all, they were truly ghetto properties. I'm talking about trash. I'm talking about a bunch of crap on the patios and the balconies. I'm talking about broken blinds in the windows. I'm talking about blankets hung on the windows. I'm talking about, oh gosh, y'all. If you've never seen a ghetto property, this would, I mean, the pictures that I took on these properties, it was crazy. Now, I knew before it ever came to light and was shared with me, which of course they didn't do before they hired me, because they were afraid I wouldn't take the properties. Hard to get a manager with experience that'll take on properties like these two. But back then, my OCD and ADD were in full swing, and that was nothing but a challenge to me. So I had the maintenance supervisor meet with me on each property, and I wanted them to outline for me what the problems were. Well, the first problem they told me about was they could never get any extra hours to work on these properties, to keep up the maintenance, to keep them up to HUD's standards. Now, one of my maintenance supervisors flat out told me we had an inspection 3 years ago, and we got written up for several things. But we just have not had the manpower to keep up the regular maintenance, much less do the things that were a problem on the inspection list. Y'all, when I saw that inspection report, I was like, oh my gosh, they are gonna shut these properties down if we don't get this stuff fixed. Now, I had a supervisor who was this young woman named Stephanie. Now, the less you spend on a property, the more money goes into the pockets of the management company and the owners. That's why you have slumlords. It's all about the money. Well, immediately I got a hold of Stephanie, and I said, Stephanie, we're going to have another HUD inspection. It's coming up in just a few months. None of the things on the inspection that we failed 3 years ago has been addressed. Now, I need some extra hours for my maintenance staff. She said, no, I'm not going to authorize that. That's not in our budget. You can imagine how upset I was about that. So what I decided to do was to put off some of the regular maintenance on the insides of the apartments. Not anything that was habitable. We always took care of leaks, plumbing issues, electrical issues. Those had to be done. And then I would borrow a person from one property to come over and help on the other property. But y'all, there was no way in 3 months without extra staff or extra hours that we were going to get these properties up to snuff. Well, I got a call from the HUD inspector that was coming out. Really nice man, been with HUD for years and years and years. Now, I was warned not to talk to the inspector that came out. You do not say anything negative to them. Yeah, right. Like, these inspectors can't see with their own eyes what has not been taken care of. So I worked a lot of hours, y'all. These were not big properties. They were like, I don't know, 50 units each. They were small properties. But the maintenance and the upkeep had been deferred for so long. And there were so many just nasty people living there, not paying any attention to the community policies. Now, one thing I always did, y'all, when I took over a new property, I looked at the community policies that were in place and I redid them. And everybody got mailed.
In a quarter mile, merge onto I-10 East.
But mailed a new copy of the community policies. They had to sign it and return it to the office. So that helped you to reinforce your policies. Because the prior manager, of course, was not...
Continue on I-10 East for 166 miles.
...upholding the policies. She let things go. I mean, it was awful, y'all. I mean, really awful. So that's one of the first things that I took care of. I started having to evict people. And it's not easy. When a person is on HUD, that doesn't get done by you or even the owner. HUD gets involved. If you are going to evict somebody, it can cause them to lose their HUD program, which is really pretty devastating to people. And I always gave people a chance to start following the policies. They had plenty of warning. Beaumont and Banning, let's see, Banning's 5 miles. Beaumont's a little farther. So, I mean, I really had my job cut out for me, y'all. I worked a lot of overtime, but managers are exempt. And what that means is you work until the job is done, and there is no overtime for managers. But I was young and I had a lot of get up and go, y'all. And I worked my tail off on these properties. Well, the HUD inspector showed up, and he's got his clipboard and his checklist and his notepad. And I told him straight up, I said, you know what? I just took over these properties 3 months ago. I could not get extra hours or extra manpower to deal with these issues. I wanted him to know, y'all, that it wasn't my lazy butt that was causing the problems. He said, oh, you know what? I can tell from the lack of trash and the lack of junk everywhere and the lack of broken down cars that you've been doing a fine job. That made me feel really good. I never got any pats on the back from my supervisor, I can tell you that. So anyway, he said, walk with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, I really didn't want to do that. But I didn't have a choice. He asked me to do it, so I had to do it. And anyway, we started on our inspection. And he was checking things off. He goes, you realize that so far, none of these issues have been addressed. I said, I know that. And I'm really sorry about that. I have never taken on properties that were in this bad a condition, ever. So we kept walking. We went inside some apartments. And one of the first things that I did was to have all the hot water heaters, earthquake strapped, so that they would not fall over if we had an earthquake and create a fire. There were a few units that had infractions that I was able to take care of. One person had 2 stoves, y'all. They cut out a portion of bottom cabinets and put an extra stove in there. Now, my maintenance supervisor almost lost his job over that, y'all. I said, you're in these apartments. You knew what this resident did. You might have even helped them do it. Now, you better get this back to code. So he did. The resident wasn't happy losing his stove. And he was charged for rebuilding those cabinets. And he sure wasn't happy about that. But anyway, everything said and done, he did his inspection, and there was hardly anything checked off on that list that was a pass. The rest of it was another fail. Well, we had a meeting with our maintenance supervisor, the HUD inspector, myself, and my supervisor. She told me before we went in. Well, actually, she didn't invite me to the meeting, but the HUD inspector said, I want Deborah to be here. So I went. Now, the staff was sitting outside the conference room in a little small recreation area that we had. And they were sitting out there, my housekeeper, my other maintenance personnel. They were all sitting out there, and they were just shaking their heads. They were all scared to death of this chick, Stephanie. She hadn't been with the company that long, but she was a biatch, y'all. I got that straight from my staff. They said, don't cross her, don't cross her. People have lost their jobs. So anyway, we went into that meeting, and he was going over the things that had not been taken care of. He said, I understand. Now, I almost had a heart attack when he said this. I understand that Deborah is new, and she has requested overtime or extra manpower to take care of these infractions, and she was denied. Oh my gosh, y'all. Oh my gosh. Long story short, I got fired. She wanted me to quit. And I said, Stephanie, I am not quitting my job. I love my job, and these properties need me. she asked me again, Deborah, I'm asking you to step down. And I said, nope, I'm not going to do it. So she left. She came back to have a meeting with me, and she fired me. She asked me one more time to quit, and I wouldn't do it. So she fired me. Well, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken because I knew I could turn these properties around. And I was not going to get a chance to do that. When she left, all my maintenance people from both properties were out sitting at a table. A couple of the gals were crying, and the guys were so upset because they finally had a manager that cared and spoke up for them and their rights. So I got my stuff, gave everybody a hug, wished them good luck. I told them if I ever got another property and they wanted to move over there with me, I would definitely call them. They would always have a job with me. I said, you guys need to stand up for yourselves. Don't let this woman run you in the ground. You don't deserve it. So I left and I went directly from the property to the unemployment office. They approved my unemployment. I mean, right there at the office. And I said, you're kidding me. They said, no, we were just as shocked as you are. We have never had anybody not fight unemployment. When I called to verify your employment and the reason for your discharge, they said the reasons don't matter. We terminated her and we want you to pay her unemployment. Now the reason they did this is because I could have filed a suit for wrongful termination. And they knew it. And the HUD inspector told me, he said, Deborah, if they terminate you because of the work you were doing and the things you were asking to get the job done, you let me know and I will go to bat for you if you want to fight it. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I don't want to go through all that crap. And I went home and I was crying and I hated to tell my husband that I had lost my job. I thought maybe he would blame me. But of course he didn't. He was so loving and so supportive. But that's the story of my properties in Beaumont and Banning. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Another long video, y'all. I just can't seem to shut up. I love you guys. Do something fun today. And I'll talk to you later.